I can't tell you how good it is to be here today and see you. Lots of times people say, well, it's good to see you. I say, it's good to be seen, you know? And you just don't know how true that is, but I am so happy to be here with you today. And again, a lot of special people here today, of course, from the ACC. Commissioner Swofford called me this morning. He couldn't be here, but his beautiful wife, Nora, is here. Nora, right over here. In fact, she's got a whole table here. Of course, Norlyn Finch is here, right over here from the ACC. Former Assistant Commissioner is Bernadette McGlade. Bernie's right over here. And actually, she used to coach at Georgia Tech. And Bernie, I need to talk to you about recruiting a little bit before you leave today, because I'm recruiting one of your former players' daughter, and so I need to talk to you about that. So. And then here from Greensboro, Matt Brown is here. Right there's my buddy. I tell him all the time I want to hire him as a recruiter, because I'll tell you what, now that guy, he's a go-getter. The Greensboro Sports Council, I know Harrison's here, a whole lot of people. So I love Greensboro. I love this area. We, without a doubt, have the best women's basketball tournament in the country. And so I'm very, very blessed to be here with you today. Let me ask you, now, I know we have cancer survivors. We have people that now presently have cancer. We have cancer survivors. If you are a victim of cancer or a cancer survivor, would you please stand up? I wanted you guys to realize, I mean, that in this room, that's probably about a fourth of the people that are in here. You know, I had that attitude, well, it's not going to happen to me. You know, I'm so healthy and everything like that. But, ooh, wow, was I in for a rude awakening. Now, I just a few minutes ago mentioned about John Swofford. Of course, he hired me at North Carolina many years ago, 29 years or so ago. And so I actually, when he called me this morning, he told me he wasn't going to be able to be here. I said, so that means I can talk about you even more. And he said, no, I don't want you to ruin your speech. I said, no, you would never ruin my speech, because I don't know anyone that has more influence in the NCAA and in college sports than John Swofford. And he's always been so good to me. In fact, whenever it was announced that I was going to be inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame, he was the first person to call me, and he made his hotel reservations and his airplane reservations that day. And so he was there when I was inducted. And now I have some posters I'm going to put up, that's why I'm going to walk around a little bit up here. And I'm really proud of this one, because I just talked about John. And here we are at the Naismith Hall of Fame last year. If you can't see it, I'm going to put them up on the easel up here. But there's John and I last year. And that was on September the 9th. September the 9th. And here is my acceptance speech right here. This is when I was giving my acceptance speech on September the 9th, 2013. You know, 2013 was a great year for me because, first of all, I got my 900th win. I was inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame, and there's nothing that you can do in the world of basketball that's bigger than Naismith. And then we had the #1 recruiting class. So, you know, it was a great year, all right? And then after the Hall of Fame, well, actually the week before I went to the Hall of Fame, I went in for my regular physical. You know, I was feeling great and everything. And they called me the next day and say, well, everything's good, but your white blood count's low. I said, well, what does that mean? They said, well, you probably got a viral infection or some kind of autoimmune thing going on or something like that. And they said, but we want you to see a hematologist. And I said, okay. So anyway, the next week, right before, actually on Tuesday, before I went to the Naismith, I went to a hematologist in Durham, and they did some tests and all, and then he called me the next day, and he said, well, your white blood count is low, he said, but I've looked at your blood under the microscope. I don't see anything. You know, we've ruled out all the bad stuff, you know, and all this. So he said, so you probably do have a viral infection or autoimmune type thing going on. And so he said, but we'll check it again in a couple weeks. So I go to the Naismith Hall of Fame, have an unbelievable experience there. But, oh, by the way, the doctor told me, you know, because my white blood count was so low, he said, no fruits or vegetables, and don't be shaking hands. I said, I'm going to be shaking hands with about 1,000 people, you know, this weekend. I said, you understand this is a Naismith? I mean, there'll be 1,000 people there. I'll be shaking their hands. And so, anyway, so I go to Naismith, and it was an absolutely unbelievable experience there. And again, like I said, there's accepting the speech and me standing there with John Swofford and all. So anyway, after the Naismith Hall of Fame was over with and all, we went on the road recruiting. In fact, we flew back in on a Monday morning. We landed in Raleigh-Durham about 11:45, and at 1:30 I was on another airplane going recruiting. We had a recruiting visit that night, actually to the #1 player in the country at the time. And so anyway, we get on the road recruiting, and so then I get a sore throat while we're out, because when we're out recruiting, we hardly ever come in. If we do, we just come in to get some more clothes and maybe sleep a few hours, and then we're back out again. But I got a sore throat, and so I called the doctor in Chapel Hill, and he called me in some steroids, put me on some steroids, so, you know, I got to feeling better, and I'll stay down the road. He said, but I want you to see, infectious disease, because I told him that my white blood count was low. So I went to infectious disease. They checked me out. Everything was okay. And so then he said, well, I want you to go to Chapel Hill Internal Medicine. So I went to Chapel Hill Internal Medicine. They checked me out. Everything was okay. The ear, nose, and throat guy checked me out. So, you know, I had like 4 different blood tests, and everything came back good except my white blood count was low. You know, so I was still ripping and running and going out, you know, recruiting in a different state every day. And so then when we came off the road, the hematologist in Durham, he said, well, you know, let's do another blood test. I said, well, I can tell you, I've already had all these others that you don't know about. So, but I went in again. I went in on Tuesday morning, and this was the 1st of October. Went in on Tuesday morning and had blood tests done. I didn't see the doctor, just do my blood. The next day, actually, some of you were probably, we had a big luncheon. WRAL sponsored a big luncheon in Raleigh, and so a bunch of us were over there, and so I got the blood test back, and again, it was low. And right then, I said, you know what? I'm tired of this because, you know, gone for a month now, low white blood count. I was starting to feel a little bit, you know, more tired than normal and everything, and we were starting practice. And so I called over to the Lineberger Cancer Center, doing a lot of work with them. Since 2000, I've had a blueberry farm up in the mountains where 240 blueberry bushes, people come and pick blueberries, and then they mail the checks to the Lineberger Cancer Center. It's an honor system. So I've been doing that since the year 2000. And also at the pediatrics division there at Lineberger, I sponsor the classroom there for the kids. So like I said, I do a lot of work for them. So I called over to Lineberger, and I said, I want a bone marrow biopsy, and because I know that's what controls your white blood. And so that was on a Wednesday afternoon, and so they called me back and said, Coach, we can't get you in tomorrow, but we'll get you in Friday morning. I said, okay, that's good. So Friday morning I go over, I have the bone marrow biopsy. I had practice that afternoon. I'm on the court ripping and running with the kids, you know, and everything, and I go home that afternoon. My husband's a coach also. He coaches at Shaw University. And so Sammy had gone over to East Carolina, was doing a coaching clinic over there. And about 8:20 that night, one of my girlfriends was there, and I was cleaning out a closet, and we had beach music playing, and, you know, we was just visiting and talking and everything. The phone rang about 8:20, and it was Dr. Voorhees, Pete Voorhees from Lineberger. And he said, Coach, he said, your test is back. The preliminary results is acute myeloid leukemia. I said, what? He said, yes, it's AML, acute myeloid leukemia. And he says, we need to get you in here and get our arms wrapped around this thing. You know, and I said, like when? He said, like tomorrow. I said, it's Saturday. He said, Coach, this is serious. You know, I said, Dr. Voorhees, I said, next week, I said, I got a promo with Ricky Skaggs on Tuesday. I said, Thursday, we're going to ride horses in Biltmore, do one of their little commercial things for them, when they advertise Biltmore and all that. I said, well, we're riding horses through Biltmore on Thursday. I had all these things. He said, Coach, we got to get you in here. And so, this was on a Friday night. So I had to get my staff together. I called them. They came over to my house Saturday morning. I had to call my husband. Sammy was over at East Carolina. I had to call him to come back home. I had to get my son and all this stuff because I had to go into Lineberger Cancer Center on Saturday afternoon. And so I got my staff over, and Jane is here. She's my administrative assistant, and I couldn't live without her. And so I told my staff, and then Sammy came home, and then my son. And so about 2:30 that afternoon, I checked in the Lineberger Cancer Center. And Dr. Voorhees had told me, he said, now, Coach, he said, you're going to be here about a month. Now you're talking about a tsunami hitting you. I tell you, because here I was, the #1 recruiting class, just been inducted in the Hall of Fame, so excited about the season. I feel pretty good, a little bit more tired than normal. And, so we go over and check in the Lineberger Cancer Center. And I mean, that first day was the hardest day for me because I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm great, I'm fine, my world is good, let's go home. This is like a nightmare. And it was like a nightmare. And, so that night I sent Sammy and Van home, and that was the hardest time for me that first night because of just, it seemed like a dream. But it wasn't a dream, it was reality. And the next morning, I opened my eyes, and one of my girlfriends was there that's actually an oncologist at Vanderbilt. And she had come, and she stayed with me the first 8 days. In fact, from October the 11th, that was the day I went into the hospital, October the 11th until April 17th, I didn't spend not 1 second by myself. My girlfriends got together, they made a calendar, they all signed up. One didn't leave until the other one got there. And trust me, I was high maintenance because I was on a neutropenic diet when I was at home, I was in hospital 4 times, a total of about 2 months together. But I was on a neutropenic diet. Everything had to be sterilized. Everybody had to wear a mask. My immune system was flat. I had to go, even when I was at home, I had to go over to the Lineberger Cancer Center every 48 hours to either get platelets or blood. And so I was extremely high maintenance. So. But anyway, here I was at the Lineberger Cancer Center. And, I'd open my eyes in the mornings, and I'd blink them, I'd close my eyes, I'd blink them, I'd close my eyes. And I would keep thinking, wake up, this is just a bad dream. This is just a bad dream, but it wasn't a bad dream, all right? I had leukemia. And let me tell you, no one in my family has ever had cancer on either side, any kind of cancer. I don't know how I got this, and I've never said why. I believe God is sovereign. He doesn't make mistakes. There was a reason for me having leukemia. And I said, how did I get it, but not why? And, but anyway, it's something I had to deal with. My players, and then, of course, that was Saturday. I checked in over there, and they started doing a bunch of tests on me. On Sunday morning, they put a double port in. Sunday afternoon, I was supposed to be having practice at 3 o'clock, but at 3 o'clock, they brought my team over to the Lineberger Cancer Center, and in the conference room, I had to go down and tell my team that I had leukemia, and I was going to be away from them for a long period of time. And then I went back upstairs, and they hooked me up. And for a whole week, I was on one kind of chemo, and then I had the high-powered stuff at night. Now, that was in a cylinder about this long. It looked like motor oil. And I tell you what was sort of scary was when they would inject that into me at night, they put on these suits that look like what you wear when you're playing with radioactivity. Active stuff, they put on a suit like that, and they had to put that on there to inject that chemo. It was a 7-3, if you're familiar with that, was what they were giving to me. So the process had started, and again, it was just like a nightmare. But my players, some of my former players, they came and they rallied around me, and this was actually before my hair came out. They brought me a lion for courage, okay? You can see the lion. They brought me a lion for courage, and that was right before my hair fell out. Now, Lineberger Cancer Center, let me tell you what, they are so good. And if you ever get cancer and you don't know what to do, call me, okay? I'll get you in over at the Lineberger. And let me tell you what, here's why they're so good. And right now, they're one of the top cancer centers in America. They want to be the #1 public cancer center. #1 in America.